Hello and welcome! Today, we're going to break down the blueprint for one of the most central practices in all of Islam, the ritual prayer, known as Salah. We're going to explore what it means, its very precise structure, and the daily rhythm that has guided millions of people for centuries. So, let's dive right in.
Okay, here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the essence of prayer. Then we'll walk through its daily rhythm and the prep work involved. From there, we'll get into the core pillars of the prayer itself, see what goes beyond the basics, and wrap it all up with a moment for reflection.
So let's start at the very beginning. What exactly is Salah?
What's so interesting here is that the word has two layers of meaning. Linguistically, Salah is simple. It just means a plea or a supplication. But in the technical, Islamic sense, it's something much more specific. It's a precisely structured ritual, a particular set of words and actions that start with declaring God's greatness and end with a message of peace.
But it's not just about the physical movements, right? The source material points to this verse from the Quran to get at its deeper purpose. Salah is understood to be a direct line of communication with God, something that brings inner peace, and also acts as a kind of moral compass, meant to guide a person away from doing wrong. It's this personal moment of connection and recalibration.
Okay, so we've got the what and the why down. Now, let's talk about the when. Because Salah isn't a one-time thing. It's the actual rhythm that structures the entire day.
There are 5 of these prayers that are required, and each one is tied to a specific time of day, starting from the first light of dawn all the way through to the darkness of night. This schedule really creates a powerful framework for the day, peppering our busy lives with these built-in moments for spiritual focus and mindfulness. It grounds the entire day in this consistent, reflective pattern.
And, what's really cool is that the names of the prayers are beautifully tied to their timings. Dhuhr, for instance, is connected to the idea of the sun being apparent at its peak. Maghrib literally means sunset. Isha happens in the dark, and Fajr marks the break of dawn. So each name tells you a little story about its place in the day.
Now, before the prayer itself can even begin, a really important foundation has to be laid. So let's take a look at these essential preparations. The sources introduce a key idea here, a shart, which translates to a condition. The best way to think about it is like needing a key to open a door. The key isn't actually part of the room, right? But you absolutely cannot get inside without it. In the same way, these conditions are external prerequisites that have to be met for the prayer to even count.
So, here's that checklist of conditions. It all starts with ritual purity and physical cleanliness. That means your body, your clothes, and the spot where you're praying. It also includes covering yourself appropriately, being totally sure that the correct prayer time has actually started, and finally, facing the direction of the Kaaba in Mecca, which is known as the Qibla.
All right, the external conditions are met, the foundation is set. Now we can get into the core architecture of the prayer itself, the essential actions and words that make up its very structure.
And this brings us to our next key term, rukn, or a pillar. Now, unlike a condition, which is external, a pillar is an integral, internal part of the prayer. So if a shart was the key outside the door, the rukn is like the actual walls and foundation of the room itself. If you miss one, the whole structure is considered invalid.
Now, the sources actually list 18 distinct pillars, which can sound like a lot, but to make it easier to understand, we can group them into these 5 logical phases. It all kicks off with the intention and the opening declaration. Then you have the standing recitation. That flows into a cycle of bowing and rising, which is then followed by prostration and sitting. And the whole thing concludes with the final sitting and salutations of peace.
And it is absolutely crucial to get this. Everything starts with this first pillar, niyyah, or intention. This isn't something you say out loud. It's a silent commitment you make in your heart that defines the entire purpose of the prayer you're about to perform. It's the inner meaning that breathes life into all the physical movements that are about to follow.
So once the main pillars of those 5 daily prayers are in place, there are actually ways to build upon that foundation. Let's explore the voluntary prayers.
The sources make a really clear distinction here. On one side, you have fard. Those are the obligatory prayers we've been talking about. They're the non-negotiable pillars of the faith. But then on the other side, you have sunnah, the recommended prayers. These aren't mandatory, but they're seen as a way to kind of beautify the whole structure, earning extra spiritual reward and bringing you closer to God.
And as you can see, there's a whole rich variety of these voluntary prayers. Some are directly connected to the obligatory ones, performed right before or after. Others are for special occasions, like the big Eid festival prayers or the nightly Taraweeh prayers during the month of Ramadan. It just goes to show you there's a path of worship that goes way beyond the required minimum.
So, after going through this whole blueprint of Salah, what's the really crucial point we should take away from all this?
To understand the core message, you have to consider this number, 50. The source material tells the story that, originally, 50 daily prayers were commanded. After it was requested for this to be lightened, the number was reduced all the way down to 5. But, and this is the most important part, the divine promise, as the text says, was that these 5 prayers would still carry the spiritual reward of the original 50. That one story really hammers home the immense value placed on these 5 daily moments of connection.
And this leaves us with a final thought to chew on. Taking a step back from this specific example, it brings up a broader question about the power of structured ritual in all of our lives. How do the routines we commit to, whether it's a daily prayer, a morning meditation, or even just a workout, how do they shape our focus, our discipline, and our inner state? That's definitely something to reflect on. Thanks so much for joining me.